And all along, the red flags just got, more numerous and higher. And at some point in there, right around the consulting work, there was that question of, I think I'm done with this. I want to Monty Python right now, and now for something completely different. And what that requires in that kind of structure is a partner that's then willing to kind of share the workload in some capacity. You have to reallocate the division of labor, and that just wasn't practical for the relationship that I was in. And so when I took the executive job that I still currently hold, that was kind of a do or die moment. And so even a couple years into that, the red flags are very prominent to me. And I went back to my partner and I said, this job is killing me. Like it's gotten to the point where it sucked so much of my soul that I really can't go on anymore. And here's the change I need. And here's what I need from you as a partner. And my partner was just unwilling to budge with that. And so that was really kind of a threshold moment of, well, what am I willing to deal with as a person? And so because I was raised to be the provider, to be the protector, that was my purpose in life, it was very easy for me to look at those internal desires and to tamp them down and to say, Rob, you're being selfish. Like you just want to chase your own dreams. You really need to be supportive of everybody else's dreams. And if my partner can chase their dreams and my kids can chase their dreams, then that really should be my dream. And so that's how I oriented myself. And you can kind of keep your internal desires down for so long before things, gaskets start to pop. And the gaskets were popping and people were seeing it in the office and out of the office. And there's a story I like, there's two stories that came up at work where one was after a presentation I gave that's really passionate and it really tapped into who I am authentically. One of the other executives came up to me and said, you missed your calling. And he was right. I totally did, and I knew it, and it felt like, A, it felt like I'd been exposed, and then B, it felt like a punch in the gut. But there was also kind of, it's kind of a backhanded compliment. It means he recognized my authentic skill and my authentic talent. But it was, I'm wasting my life, essentially. And then not too far after that, the role that I play in my firm is absolutely essential. And in effect, it reflects my personal life. It's where I am responsible for the entire firm. I'm responsible at an individual level, a professional level, and a legal liability level. And so whatever happens in the firm is my responsibility. And so there's a huge amount of accountability and stress that I carry on my shoulders on a day-to-day basis. And I remember being in a meeting where I was more or less trying to be seen and heard as a person. And another executive looked at me and in the most polite but direct way, he said, just because you're necessary doesn't mean you're wanted. And that really resonated with me because that suddenly became kind of the theme of my life. And it wasn't just at work, it was kind of at home too, when I realized I had a partner that wasn't going to make sacrifice for me in order to put me in a spot that alleviated just pain, let alone follow desires. I realized that's the model that became essentially my partnership, which was just because you're necessary doesn't mean you're wanted. And what I realized over the coming years, and so there a couple of years passed, I then took on higher promotions and I elevated myself to a global role where, quite humbly, I was a global executive at a very prominent position, and it was something that most people spend their whole careers for, trying to get to, and I hated it. I despised every aspect of it, and what I realized in that process is my partner then became to make me less necessary. So I spent a lot of time supporting my partner in pursuing a lot of different interests, so that way they could be resourceful on their own and they didn't need me anymore. And that's effectively what went on. And even once I was a global executive, and it just became too much. I was working 7 days a week. My average work week was somewhere in the neighborhood of like 80 hours, and I was constantly traveling. And the core things of my life, right? So I had no personal connections because I was constantly working. I wasn't able to do the activities that I love to do, which were like martial arts and fitness. I didn't have really healthy techniques, and because I was constantly traveling and constantly working, it was really hard to maintain a healthy lifestyle. And so all those kind of things kind of deteriorated my own stability. And then when it came time for kind of that decision of, hey, this partnership isn't working, and not only that, group consensus is everyone's really happy when you're not here, was kind of a dissolution to the entire family structure. And in that process, that was really where there was a lot of stress for me about coming to grips with, what are my internal desires versus what is this kind of sense of obligation that I have and sense of responsibility that I was raised with as kind of being the most important thing. Like the value I had to offer the world was to be a provider. And so when you look at that and say, okay, I really never wanted to do this, so I'd like to now free myself of it. I was in a situation where I was then told, my partner wouldn't let me free myself of it. So when I said, hey, if we're going to dissolve everything, can I now go, can I now do what I'd like to do? And there was a resounding no. And so that was kind of hard to deal with initially. And I think that was the moment where the feeling of stuckness was just too great. And all of the negative byproducts that came from that were so destructive that it was hard to kind of see that there was anything beyond what I was pushing to. I didn't even realize that there was a second path or an alternative path that I could take to get the emotional rewards that I was lacking. So